become a grown-ass man now, and your bladder grows up with you. You guys, we're gonna keep this going. Our next comedian, please come to the stage. Real funny man, Riley Omar. Please give it up, Riley Omar.
So, I'm happy to be doing comedy again. I know that a lot of the comedians here are anxious to get on the stage because it's been a while. And the reason I got into comedy, I think, is because of my father, who had what was referred to as a acerbic wit. He tended to be a little biting. And he told a story about why he was the way he was, and consequently why I am as well. Everyone has a moment in their childhood that defines their life and how they're going to look at the world around them. This was my father's story, is to explain why he was. When he was about 6 years old, his father, my grandfather, Raleigh Sr., I'm the third, built him a goat cart. It's a cart made to be pulled by a goat. So they went out to a stockyard to buy the perfect goat. And he spent like 3 hours going through this entire stockyard of goats out in the country to pick the perfect goat. This one's got, it's got floppy ears. This one has spots. Finally, he picked out the perfect goat. So he goes, the guy says, all right, go to that little shed and pay for the goat, and I'll bring it to your car. So they go in, they pay for it, they're sitting there and they're waiting for about 5-10 minutes. And the guy from the stockyard comes walking in with a brown paper bag and places it on the counter because they had killed the goat because they didn't tell him it was to pull a goat cart and they thought it needed to be slaughtered. Unfortunately, that's the way he was, and that was his excuse. So what do you do when you have a life like that? Of course, he was an attorney, and it convinced me to become an attorney as well. And being a professional, a licensed professional, is kind of daunting because people give you a lot of credit just because you have that piece of paper. And one of the best examples as to people giving full faith and credit to just that piece of paper was told to me by a friend of mine and my cousin over Thanksgiving Day. And my cousin's friend is a urologist. And he told this story about one day they brought in a guy to the emergency room, and he was called in because he had fallen asleep with a cock ring on and passed out all night. And when they bring you in with a cock ring that's been on all night, for those of you who don't understand what a cock ring is, it is a nice, it's either plastic or rubber or even made of leather with snaps. And I got to explain this about a leather daddy from a shop downtown. It's like sometimes, it depends on how big the guy is, depends on how much flow you want to have. You got to have snaps on the good ones. And unfortunately, this guy fell asleep. And so the urologist called my cousin, who's a psychiatrist. They went to med school together, that's how we knew him. And the reason he called him is because when you wake up without a penis, you're going to have questions. And unfortunately, this guy's member and everything else was too far gone because the blood flow had been cut off so long. And the urologist put it to me this way. He said, Raleigh, you really never know how much power you have until you're holding a man's dick in one hand and a scalpel in the other. And unfortunately, he did have questions, and my cousin did have to do the initial therapy that he was going to have to go through once he woke up after a night of unbridled passion and drinking to end up without a penis. But even after all that, after what the guy had to go through as a surgeon, the guy had to go through as a psychiatrist, you still got to remember that there was 2 teams of lawyers afterwards who had to fight over whether or not there was a manufacturer's defect in the cock ring or whether it was used as directed. And yes, most likely the word cock ring was in the pleading when they filed. One of my favorite stories of my father's involved a guy who got arrested for attempted murder. He was driving along, his car broke down. He came back a little bit later to fix it, found a guy in his car. So he pulled out a gun, fired into the ground, and held him there until the cops showed up. The cops showed up and they arrested him for attempted second-degree murder. Now, normally you don't put your client on the stand because you don't know what they're going to say. But this guy had something to say. Dad puts him on the stand. He says, "Sir, where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Vietnam." I said, "How long have you, what did you do before you came to America?" He said, "I Colonel, Vietnam Green Beret." I said, "How many years did you do that?" He said, 22 years. I said, "How many years did you see combat?" He said, 22 years. And then this was what ultimately won him the case. I said, "Sir, how many people have you killed?" The guy paused for a minute and said, 300 people. I'm a very good shot. You know, live 22 year Vietnam Green Beret, 22 year combat, not be excellent shot. I shoot, they die. He no dead. I shoot, he no die. I no try to kill him. Not guilty. Thank you all very much.
Round of applause, everybody. I know now I'm never going to use a cock ring. It's not my future. He committed first-degree murder on that cock ring story. It's not happening around here. Let's put our hands